I've been building a software company for the past 3 years, and I've been recording every day for the past year and documenting the journey building this thing. And I would argue that imposter syndrome is actually generally a good thing, and a good sign at least, for anybody who's young and relatively ambitious and wants to do things. Imposter syndrome means that, at least to some level, stretching yourself beyond kind of what's comfortable to you. That is some indicator that you're going in the right direction if you're ambitious and wanting to do things that are perhaps outside of the norm. Now, it's also worth saying that if you have too much imposter syndrome, it might be a sign that you're doing things that you're not qualified to do. But at the same time, that's how you learn. And as long as you don't claim to know what you don't know, that's when imposter syndrome really overwhelms people, and rightfully so. But I think imposter syndrome is an incredibly useful kind of barometer, which is if you feel some of it, it's probably good, because if you're in a room that maybe you shouldn't be in, I think that's a great place to be. If you're in a room with a bunch of entrepreneurs who are way more experienced than you are, I think that's a great place to be and learn and connect and kind of gather their experience. But at the same time, I think it's also a great barometer to tell you when you need to double down on something. If you feel like a fraud, if it really bothers you deeply, then you should stop and think about, what is the thing that's bothering me? Am I claiming to be somebody who I'm not? If that's the case, then obviously you have to kind of sit down with yourself and work toward being that person. It's something that anybody who goes somewhere new, they will need to feel that. If you want to be somewhere that you haven't been before, you have to feel new at some point. And sometimes that's what imposter syndrome feels a little bit like. You can't really bat an eye at it. I'm 20. Sometimes I find myself in rooms with much more experienced entrepreneurs. And I think that's kind of like, you need to go through that. You need to be in a room where you're the first year founder and they're the 10th year founders, and you want to be in those places. And so if you feel that, I think it's a sign, and I don't think people should run away from it. It's an underrated sign that you're in the right place. And now, I'm not for faking it till you make it. I think that's a terrible idea. The only person you're really faking it for is other people, and for validation. At the end of the day, like, people who really matter, I think they don't care if you are trying and you are slowly making it. You don't need to show them that you're already there. They know that you'll get there if you keep going. Fake it till you make it, I think, is not useful at all. Documenting even while you don't have all the things is worth it, and that's kind of like the logic of what I do, because there's a whole lot of things which I still need to learn and whatever, but I still think it's worthwhile to try and document those few lessons that I do have. But I don't think imposter syndrome is a completely bad thing, and oftentimes it comes with being an ambitious founder. If you want to do things that you kind of haven't done, is you have to get yourself into places that otherwise you wouldn't be in. And I would argue, actually, most of the greatest founders don't even really feel it. At least from the circles that I've been, like, people just don't really clock that. It's just, it is what it is. It doesn't even really register in your mind as imposter syndrome. But I think a lot of people are kind of afraid of it. People tend to fall on one of two spectrums, which is either they're like afraid of it, or they are kind of fake it till you make it, and they talk as if they know everything, which I think is also generally not a great place to be. You have to tread a very fine line in the middle, and going either way of that can be quite disastrous for you. Anyway, I'm going to leave today's video at that. Feel free to comment any questions, but I think it's worthwhile to be okay with yourself being in new places that you haven't otherwise been, where you feel otherwise a little bit uncomfortable, like you should feel discomfort. And if you don't, it's because you're not stretching yourself enough. Don't fake it till you make it, but also don't be afraid of a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, it's not going to kill you. It'll probably make you a little bit stronger and a little bit better at what you do. At least this has been kind of my experience. Anyway, drop any questions below if you have any.